A co-host Noah Wolf, not beside me right now, but he will be appearing frequently throughout the show. He'll be talking to all of our Player of the Year candidates in studio, so we got a bunch of interviews planned, a huge reveal at the end of the show, as you know. But we're going to start with some highlights from a regional title game. It was 2008 that the last time Sheridan and Eastmoor Academy played each other, when Eastmoor beat Sheridan in the second round of the playoffs. Tonight, the stakes were much higher. MVL reporter Rebecca Markovitz saw if Sheridan was able to get its revenge.
Both these teams pulled huge upsets to get here, Blake. Sheridan seeded 6th, beat the 2nd and 3rd seeded teams, and Eastmoor seeded 4th, beat number 1 seed Bishop Hartley. Tonight was the battle of the underdogs, but only one team could move on. Sheridan fans brought out the cowbells, the larger-than-life player heads, and this game was just about larger-than-life. 3 minutes into the game, it's General's 8th play of their drive, and Ethan Heller runs the ball for 43 yards. It's 7-0, and he celebrates the little airplane. But no less than 2 minutes later, the Warriors face 3 and 16, and the pass is caught by Rashawn Harper, who takes it all the way to the 8-yard line. He sets up this scoring play. Kylan Birchmore plows the defense and makes it into the end zone. The extra point is no good, so it's 7-6. There's not a whole lot of action in the first half, but that changes in the beginning of the second. Eastmoor has the ball, but Nick Rinaldi intercepts the pass, and he has a 10-yard return. And 6 plays later, Ethan Heller throws a dime to Adam Boyle, who is wide open in the corner of the end zone. It's 14-6. But again, Eastmoor comes back just 2 minutes later. Edwards turns on the wheels for 21 yards, and he is in the blue. It's 14-12. Sheridan goes 3 now, and it's another Edwards play. It might look the same as the last, but it's not. He's just that good at running the ball down the sideline, and that puts the Warriors up 18-14. They go on to win 20-14.
Well, the way you made it sound, Rebecca, was these teams were very evenly matched, and this seemed like a really close kind of back-and-forth game all throughout.
It was, Blake, but these kind of exciting games where it comes down to the last few minutes is what we like to see in the playoffs.
Yeah. So what was the deciding factor in this game?
I mean, Eastmoor just had more offensive opportunities, and Savon Edwards Jr. was just killing it on offense. His speed was unmatched. He had 2 of the 3 Warrior touchdowns. He even dislocated his shoulder late in the third and continued to play.
How did that Sheridan defense hold up?
They did a great job holding off the Warriors. Late in the first half, the defense held Eastmoor at the 2-yard line to keep them from taking the lead, and they had 2 interceptions in the second. Ultimately, the Generals just couldn't move the ball on offense. They tried to move down the field with deep passes, but had 8 incomplete passes and only threw 3 complete in the first half.
So it's the end of the road for Sheridan, but what can the Generals take away from this season?
They are MVL champions and made it to the regional finals. And I want to take a look back at the team's top players in the regular season. Ethan Heller beat 2 school records and had over 1,700 passing yards. Jacob Rhodes finished with over 45 receptions for 410 yards. And Will Hamilton led in rushing yards with over 420 yards. Cole Casto was the leading scorer, having scored a total of 71 points. And Alec Ogle led in punt returns with 18 returns for almost 300 yards. It is Eastmoor Academy who will move on to the state semifinals. This will be their 2nd appearance in the state semis since 2018. Unfortunately for Sheridan, it is the end of the road, but it was certainly a season to be proud of.
Nothing for those boys out in Thornville to hang their heads about. Rebecca, great job all season long. In 2017, the MBL had the strongest season of any conference. We could say the same thing this season. 3 playoff teams, 2 conference champions, and 1 monumental game in our coverage.
The Muskingum Valley League has played host to some of the toughest competition in our coverage, and this season was no exception. 3 MBL teams earned a berth in Week 11, and one of them is playing for a regional championship. After finishing as state runner-ups last season and starting over with a new coach, Kevin Fell, people wondered if Tri-Valley would continue their dominance in the conference. The Scotties finished with a 9-1 record and a share of the MBL title, which was their 8th consecutive conference title. The team they shared it with was the Sheridan Generals, who also finished the season 9-1 and earned their first conference championship since 2016. They were led by Player of the Year candidate Ethan Heller, who finished the regular season with 1,820 yards and 19 passing touchdowns, as well as 7 more on the ground. The other team to make the playoffs were the John Glenn Little Muskies. After starting the season off 1-3, the Little Muskies rallied off 6 consecutive wins, including putting the only blemish on the Scotties record this season. Looking forward to next season, the Generals will lose Heller as well as 16 other seniors from this year's roster. The Philo Electrics will return their starting quarterback Hunter Adolph, as well as Casey Munyon, who is one of the most dynamic backs in the league this season. It'll be interesting to see who emerges from the conference next year.
That was the voice of Joey Medor. The voice you're about to hear belongs to NVL reporter Joe Hennessy. Joe, seniors moving on, it's a part of the game, but some of these squads in this league have a ton of value being lost.
Yeah, we talked about John Glenn last week, losing valuable seniors. And another team will be the Tri-Valley Scotties. Cade Sterling, Carson Simpkins were great this season. Blaze Taylor made an impact when he was on the field. And they are also losing Luke Fargus, who was a solid quarterback.
Yeah, senior departures were an issue for the Scotties entering this season, but they adapted. And with the returns the Scotties have next season, they should be able to do the same, don't you think?
Yeah, it's official that this is Aiden Fritter and Jordan Panatelio's team. Juniors next season. They did see significant time this year. Having experience means a lot to teams that are eyeing for a playoff run. And to the other NVL champions, Sheridan. They will be losing Heller and Jacob Rhodes, but they still return Shea Taylor and Will Hamilton. Offensive and D-line also losing some impactful players. I think Sheridan is the one team that people are really thinking who is going to be the guy next year. But they are still going to be good in the NVL with their tradition of winning.
Joey also mentioned Philo there at the end of his package. Casey Munyon and the Electrics could shake things up next year.
Yeah, he makes everyone look slow. Said it once, I'll say it again. He will be a Player of the Year candidate next season under head coach Dirk Lincecum. But losing Carson Stotsberry and Aaron Phillip is going to hurt the team as a whole.
Well, there are even more NVL teams that we've mentioned so far. What names on those teams should fans expect to hear?
Reese Perkins for John Glenn, Logan Ratliff and Christian Vance for New Lexington, and Caden Miller for Crooksville. All right, those guys are definitely ones that we'll be looking for, but you never know who will move up in the depth chart after a good offseason.
That's right. Each year to year, especially in the NVL, really important, Joe.
Yep.
Thanks a lot for the good work. Yeah. When Tri-Valley and Sheridan met in Week 7, we called it the main event. Right now, we'll call it the game of the year in our coverage. As Alex Porter will tell you, 1 point was the difference between the two NVL champs.
The NVL was quite the treat for the fans this season, but the game to watch this year was the matchup between the Sheridan Generals and the Tri-Valley Scotties. Coming into the game, both had records of 7-0. The game was a nail-biter from the get-go, as the first score of the game came from none other than quarterback and Player of the Year candidate Ethan Heller on this 8-yard touchdown run, giving the Generals the 7-0 lead. The Scotties were able to respond right away on a 69-yard drive that lasted 4 minutes. As both teams kept trading shots, regulation couldn't be enough, so it had to be decided in overtime. Sheridan answered first, making their lead 19-13, but the Generals missed the critical extra point. The Scotties would respond on this Blake Sands 5-yard run and capitalize with the extra point, icing the Generals 20-19. Ethan Heller would lead the Generals with 209 total offensive yards, while Aiden Fritter led the Scotties with 171 yards. In a highly anticipated matchup that featured star players, an overtime, and a 1-point victory, was without a doubt the game of the year.
He says without a doubt, I have to agree. The atmosphere at that game, I'll tell you, was electric. And I was only there for a quarter. All the aspects of that game at Jack Anderson Stadium were so exciting, and it truly was our game of the year. From the strongest conference to still our newest conference, the FAC also had co-champions this season and some video game numbers from offenses. FAC reporters Connor Mills and Ryan Kincaid saw it all.
Year 2 of Frontier Athletic Conference action, Chillicothe won the title last year, but this year was a whole new ball game.
There was a much improved bottom of the pack with the Miami Trace Panthers and the McLean Tigers, both picking up more wins than they had just a year ago. The Chillicothe Cavaliers were at the top of the conference nearly all season, but they faltered late to drop the 4th in the FAC.
Washington Courthouse gained a little boost thanks to transfer student Gio Thomas, and he and Dylan Stewart were a perfect match, both of whom are Gridiron Glory Player of the Year finalists. The Blue Lions finished 3rd in the FAC and held a record of 7-3.
It came down to the last game of the season against Chillicothe again, but this year it was different. Jackson came out on top to earn a share of the FAC title with the Hillsboro Indians.
For the Indians, Deion Burns and Josh Keats led a talented backfield to a 9-2 record and earned a playoff berth for the first time since 2005.
Already much improved play, with a couple of rivalries taking shape. The FAC is here to stay with an exciting Year 3 coming up.
Will Collins here is another reporter well-versed in FAC football. This conference shook out a little differently this year.
Indeed it did. The FAC crowned new champions. You heard that right. Yes, co-champs, Jackson and Hillsboro. But that's not the whole story of this conference this year. The McLean Tigers and new coach Jacob Orzotti won 2 games after going winless last season, and they picked up their first league win over the Panthers of Miami Trace to finish 5th. Speaking of the Panthers, they saw a dip in their performance compared to last season, putting up a 2-8 record, but no league wins, finishing 6th in the league. So that was the bottom of the league.
You round out the bottom of the league, like you said. Those teams coming in at 3rd and 4th surprised us a bit.
I think they did. After winning the 2017 FAC title, Chillicothe finished 4th. Their 2 league losses to Washington Courthouse and Jackson knocked them out of first place and the playoffs. Their defense was stingy, but the Cavs couldn't come through in some of the games that counted. At 3rd in the conference this season is Washington Courthouse. Their high-powered offense, led by Gio Thomas and Dylan Stewart, put up high scores all season long, but they couldn't beat the eventual co-champs.
So that leaves Jackson and Hillsboro. How did these 2 squads end up topping the FAC?
What put these 2 teams on top was pure grit, Blake. The ability to powerfully run the ball on offense and get off the field on 3rd down on defense held these teams together. Hillsboro beat Jackson in overtime this season, but Jackson beat Chillicothe, who handed the Indians their only loss, resulting in them being FAC co-champions. The Indians will be losing some key seniors in Josh Keats, Deion Burns, and Mason Swain, but Jackson retains much of their backfield. With juniors Jared Eisenhower, Bryce Parks, Jaden Spires, and Bryce Graham returning for the Ironmen, they're looking forward to another FAC title shot.
They certainly are. It's anybody's game in a 6-person conference, 6-team conference. Will, thanks for the great work. Those video game numbers I mentioned, Gio Thomas is one guy who produced them. Thomas made an immediate splash in the FAC and earned his chance at Gridiron Glory Player of the Year bid. And like all 4 of our candidates in studio tonight, Thomas will join Noah on set for an interview. But first, we want you to get to know the 15-year-old quarterback just a little bit better.
Gio Thomas fakes the handoff, takes it himself into the end zone, 17 yards. Let me tell you, this kid is a beast.
This Gio Thomas cat, he's really good, isn't he?
I never knew it'd be up to this big and I'd be up for Player of the Year. I try to make all my players better for who they are, and especially off the field. I focus on trust and, being loyal to one another as a teammate. I can move pretty well. I got light on my feet. I can make people miss. I'm a competitive person when it comes down to it, and it taught me a lot of leadership. I play for my parents. I make sure I have their respect, and they're always there for me.
Gio Thomas now joins me on set. Gio, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, man.
So it's a big record-breaking season for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How did it feel to put up those great numbers like you did this year?
I mean, with hard work I put in off-season, I expect the things, I got out of the season, and I'd like to have more going in the playoffs, but we didn't make it there, but glad where we are now,
So some of those records that you ended up breaking belong to your dad at Washington Courthouse.
That's right.
What's that family atmosphere mean to you?
I mean, it's like having a big brother as a father, you know what I mean? It's like having, every day you go into work, try to be better than the person behind you. And that was my dad. I was trying to be better than he. Every time I step on the field and try to be better than him.
Any kind of a rivalry between you two now that your name is in the record books?
Every day, man. Every day.
So your personality kind of changes a little bit when you get on the football field. What do you like off the field, and what changes when you put on the helmet and pads?
I think when I step on that field, I get in my zone. I step on the field and I just think I got to be better. I got to be better, And then off the field, I'm a goofball. I like to be me.
Yeah?
Of course.
What about it? Like, what are some of your goofball tendencies?
I'm just different, man. Every aspect about me. I'm just a young kid, 15 years old. I'm just doing different things.
So this was your first year playing for Washington Courthouse. Yeah. What was it like jumping into that high-powered offense right away?
Felt like family, man. Jumping in there. People like Dylan, Omar especially, feel special to be out there with them, and then every play, you knew something special was capable of happening.
Yeah. Did you feel like that support that was already there for you helped you put up the kind of numbers you did this year?
For sure. Yeah.
Cool. So, Gio, thanks for joining us, man.
Thank
really
you for
nice
having me.
talking to you.
Thank you.
For a little bit more FAC coverage, here's Blake in the Highlight Center, excuse me.
Thank you, Gio, and thank you, Noah. The score of the FAC's Game of the Year doesn't really stand out, but a pair of disciplined rushing attacks in an overtime period. You'll see why Taylor Jedrzak features that game tonight.
6-1 Hillsboro, 5-2 Jackson. This late season matchup between teams atop the FAC would likely decide not only the eventual conference champion, but playoff seeding as well. Things looked to be getting off to a flying start when Josh Keats took the opening kickoff inside the Jackson 10, but the tone would be set in the 4 plays that followed. The Ironmen held Hillsborough out of the end zone in what would become the only trip either team made to the red zone for the next quarter and a half. Hillsborough scored first, and then the Ironmen, with the help of this interception by Reed Evans, scored twice on Jared Eisenhower passes in 2 minutes and 31 seconds, and Jackson led 14-7 at halftime. Let's go! After tying the game in the third quarter, Indians quarterback Mason Swain faked out everyone with this pass to Mark Gallimore to give Hillsborough a late lead. But Jackson wasn't going to let their playoff hopes die that easy. With 1 minute and 13 seconds to go, Bryce Graham bullied his way into the end zone to send the game into overtime. Overtime went all the way of the Indians, ending Jackson's possession with an interception and finding the end zone once again through the air to pull off the win and clinch their first playoff berth since 2005.
Now, at the time, we did not know these teams would be co-FAC champs, but that made it an even more exciting push to the end of the season. Congrats to both teams on great seasons, sharing that conference title, and a heck of a game in Week 8. Now, Washington Courthouse did not play in the best game or win the conference title, but they do have 2 Player of the Year candidates. Next up is Dylan Stewart, who did everything for the Blue Lions. He catches touchdowns. He runs them. He moved to receiver and still throws the ball. He plays defense and kicks and punts. One thing we haven't seen Stewart do is talk on camera, but he'll get that chance on the other side of this clip.
To who? Dylan Stewart. For a 55-yard touchdown, he mossed that man. Dylan Stewart shoots the gap. Dylan Stewart, who scored touchdowns all over the place tonight in lots of different ways.
I feel like I should win this award because I'm the best player all around. There's not a lot of people you see that can kick the ball, punt the ball, play defense, play corner, play safety. I've seen the success, like what you build up and what you work for, and then it's paying off in the end. It's just a blessing. I play for my dad, driving me hours every day for football practice, and so I just like owe it back to him.
Jack of all trades, Dylan Stewart now joins me on desk. Dylan, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
So obviously one of the things that got you here is your versatility. You know, you've rushed for a touchdown, you've caught a touchdown, you've thrown a touchdown. You got a pick six, a kick return, a punt return touchdown this season. Did I miss any?
No, sir.
Okay. What's your favorite way to score?
I would say offense, catching the ball.
Yeah?
It just comes easy to me.
Why's that?
I worked on it my whole life growing up, and I just feel like that's my best asset of my game.
You a receiver first?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you kind of mentioned in that video beforehand your family history, a little bit. Your dad played for Washington Courthouse. What does it mean to kind of continue the bloodline?
It just feels good. Hopefully when I grow up one day, my sons will be at that school.
Yeah? You like to continue the Blue Lion legacy?
Yes, sir.
What does it mean to you to be a Blue Lion?
It means a lot. Knowing my dad came from that school, it was pretty good back then. And now me coming up, breaking some of the records, it just feels good.
Yeah, what do you see for the Blue Lions in the future?
Hope they get better and make their chance to playoffs.
All right, so like we said, we talked about your versatility a little bit. Let's do a scenario here. It's 4th and goal from the 10-yard line. How are you going to tell the team to get you the ball? What's your play call?
Like with the coach's call,
what are you calling?
One-on-one on the slant.
Okay. And why is that?
Because I'm shifty, it's hard to get me in space, hard to guard me in space.
So what was your favorite moment from this season?
When we beat Chillicothe, because I came down here my sophomore year, we never beat Chillicothe, and it just felt good to beat them my senior year.
So you scored 31 touchdowns this year. That's like near the top of the state. What's it like to live in the end zone?
It just feels great. All the hard work I put in over the summer, it showed.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now, here's Blake in the Highlight Center for a look at what happens after football season on WOUB.
Yes, thank you both. And as you all know, you figured it out. Tonight's our finale show, which means football season is coming to a close. But it also means the basketball season is right around the corner, and that means that our sister show, Hardwood Heroes, is starting its coverage real soon. And now joining me is current Gridiron Glory associate producer and Trimble lead reporter for Hardwood Heroes, Paul Roth.
Now, I got to stop you right there, Blake. I'm actually no longer the Trimble lead reporter.
Really?
No, sir. I will be taking over as the host of Hardwood Heroes' upcoming 10th season, and I'm excited to take over from my previous lead and last year's host, Nick Niehaus, who is someone I feel has been a great mentor for me and really helped me land this role.
Yeah, it's pretty good. The two past Hardwood hosts come from that Trimble lead line.
Yeah, I've been telling everyone, they got to look out for whoever's the Trimble lead this year because I feel like they could be the next one in line.
Yeah, it's all in their hands now, right?
But in all seriousness, I'm ready to get started on the season, and I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, I can tell you're real excited right now. What do you think the viewers can expect from you and the rest of the crew this season?
Well, Blake, I think the most exciting aspect of this upcoming season is that each conference will be a toss-up for both the boys and the girls. Every conference champion from our coverage last season lost big names. Trimble lost Randy Hickson. Vinton County boys lost both the Yates brothers and Jake Speetman. And the girls lost Cassie Bentley, while Waterford lost both Allie Kern and Megan Ball. Every conference is up for grabs, and we can't wait to go along for the ride with you all. Our online coverage will be getting started right along with the basketball season, and we hope you're there with us when we premiere the new season in January.
Paul, it's been really critical for us here at Gridiron to have you behind the camera, but we are excited to see you back in front of the camera. Congrats, man.
Thank you.
Now, Paul brought up Trimble, so let's stay there for a second. I know the focus on tonight is the Player of the Year candidates, but we do have a Coach of the Year award to give away, too. And Trimble is no stranger to domination on the gridiron. A lot of that falls on the shoulders of Phil Ferris, who's this year's Coach of the Year. Here's the man himself, Phil Ferris. Thank you very much for being here. I'll shake your hand first and I'll hand you this. I already got my fingerprints smudged all over it, so I apologize for that. But
thank you.
How special is winning this award for you?
20 years now. We watch the show and I see different colleagues, different coaches that I look up to winning this award. So it's an honor.
Yes, certainly is. I'm glad to hear you say that. And you mentioned 20 years of Gridiron Glory. You've been at Trimble for even longer than that. How does this team feel special to you?
This is more of a team. There's not one real superstar. They just all feed off each other. Our offense is good, and I think our defense is even better. And it's a total team effort.
I would go as far as to say the defense is better too. I can feel a connection between you and Connor here. This was a record-breaking season for you guys. What does it take on your part? What's the biggest key to maintaining that shutdown ability on defense?
It starts with the coaching, and probably the best thing I did as a coach is hire some guys that knew what they were doing. So, Brady Trace, we got Jacob Coons, young guy, Austin Downs, Phil Campbell, and a few others, and they really work in the weight room and defensively, and it's really showed this year.
You guys have done a phenomenal job this season. Thank you very much for being here. You very much earned that award. Thank you. Very well deserved.
Thanks.
Now, we haven't yet talked about the fans, but we all know that without them, we would not even have this show. The best interactions on my end with the fans came in the Fan of the Week segments this year. So, here's introducing the best moments that I had from that segment all season long.
Peyton and I are here, Southern High School, Southern Tornadoes versus Miller Falcons. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Nice and hot.
You're the mascot.
Yes.
Right now?
Yes.
How come you're up here instead of on the sideline?
I like standing up here with my fans.
And Barb was recommended to me because she's loud. Are you loud? How loud are you?
Yeah.
Hey, Tornado!
And our Fan of the Week.
We're going to make you our fan of the week.
We're going to name you our Fan of the Week.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was fun doing all that stuff. It was fun to put it together. But I just want to extend a big thank you to all the fans who interacted with me with this season. My experience would not have been the same without you. And again, we wouldn't even have the chance to do what we do without you guys' love. Now, we love the fans, like I just mentioned, but there is still more football to recap yet. In the TVC-Ohio, it was a shaky season throughout, but that did give one team the chance to run away with the league. Here's Brian Kerp.
TVC-Ohio was filled with big games and big names. We start with the Athens Bulldogs. Led by seniors Clay Davis, Evan Adams, and Logan Maxfield, the Bulldogs won the TVC-Ohio title and clinched a playoff berth for the first time since 2014. The two-time defending champs Nelsonville York Buckeyes weren't as powerful as they were in past years. The Buckeyes saw their 16-game TVC-Ohio winning streak come to an end against the Vinton County Vikings. The Vikings pulled that upset over NY behind senior running back Cade Sibner. Sibner led the entire conference in rushing with 1,240 yards. Another standout was Meg's quarterback, Coulter Cleland. He led our entire coverage area in passing with almost 2,000 passing yards. And oh yeah, he's only a freshman. Alexander, Wellston, and River Valley round out the bottom of the standings, but they were still competitive throughout the season. Now, the slate is clean, and each team has a chance to steal the title from the boys in the Plains next year.
Now, Ohio reporter Thomas Garvik is here to run down this season a little bit more and also talk about what the future holds for the TVC-Ohio.
So, Blake, we're going to go ahead and call this segment the Tommy 3 Takes segment.
I like it.
I'm going to give you my thoughts, answer burning questions, and make predictions for the TVC-Ohio next year. And I'd be doing them a disservice. And how can I not lead off with the champions of the Ohio, the Athens Bulldogs? Brian mentioned it. They were led by, but now lose, Clay Davis, Evan Adams, and Logan Maxfield. Tough to lose a trio that was so productive offensively as they were, Blake.
Yeah, but the Bulldogs do have some guys from that offense returning, key guys even.
Yes, they do, and a potential superstar at that. I talked this year about Joey Moore being a game breaker, and I think Coach Adams sees that. My first take, Joey Moore. He's going to win the quarterback job next year. He's going to throw for 1,000 yards and rush for 1,000 as well. You can book that one.
Whoa, that is bold, Tommy, but I like it.
Oh, absolutely.
How about a team that has some questions under center?
Yeah, the Nelsonville York Buckeyes, and it all comes down to the development of quarterback Mikey Steele. He will be the key. He knows that for this team to get back to the playoffs, he needs to elevate his play to help Keegan Wilburn so that defenses can't key on him. My second take, Seal. He improves. Nelsonville, they get back to the playoffs next year.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the Buckeyes want and need is a trip back to the postseason after this tough one.
Yeah, how about this Coulter Cleland kid, Blake? He is out of this world. Brian said it himself. He led our coverage this year in passing yards. He's only a freshman. A freshman. He's got 3 more years in this conference. And so I have some pretty big expectations for him and this Megs football team next year, Blake.
So how good do you think this kid can be?
I'm telling you right now, Blake, player of the year good. This offense is losing Zach Bartram and Cole Adams, I know. So the usage for Cleveland is only going up. A 2,000 passing yard, 500 rushing yard season is very possible, Blake.
Well, unfortunately for all of us and myself, I'm not going to be able to see these predictions come to fruition, but I think all the fans at home are excited to see it. Thank you a lot, Tommy. When NY and Vinton County met Week 9, the Buckeyes had won 3 straight, and the Vikings had lost 5 straight. But NY would not leave MacArthur without its conference win streak intact. That game was a huge upset, sparked 3 straight wins for Vinton County to end the season, and Nelsonville York was a big game they circled on their schedule. There's a senior night, huge win. Cade Sibner was we're experiencing technical difficulties. You're supposed to see Cade Sibner kind of carry that team to an upset victory. They were looking to spoil the Week 9 matchup in the season where Keegan Wilburn and the Buckeyes invaded Vinton County. They had 16 straight conference wins under their belt, but the Vinton County Vikings did not have that on their senior night. Again, they came into that game with 2 wins, and they ended up winning 3 straight after that game. So a huge win for them. We talked about them as well in the season. Cade Sibner, huge reason for the win in that one.
Right, we just did that story about how Cade transferred from Texas to come play, led the Ohio in rushing yards, had an unbelievable season. That game for Nelsonville, they needed to win that game, Blake, to stay in playoff contention, and since the Vikings knocked him off on senior night, knocked him out of playoff contention.
Yeah, I'll correct you a little bit. Cade Sibner came from Florida.
That's correct.
Yes, and sat out his junior year, even more impressive. So, yeah, now we're moving on one more time in the Ohio. Athens is accustomed to quality quarterback play, but what they lacked recently was a playoff trip. Senior Clay Davis delivered both this season and became a candidate for Player of the Year. And by now you know the deal. Noah has some questions planned for Davis, and Davis probably wouldn't have made it this far if he didn't have the answers. So let's hear from him first.
This Bulldog offense runs through Clay Davis. Who's this big guy can't run? 31 yards down the sideline, eluding a defender. So nimble on his feet. It's a foot race to the end zone, and he's going to barrel his way into the end zone for 6.
Seeing people win the pass, and I always thought it was a really cool thing, and it'd be an honor to be there. My whole goal is to win at all costs, whatever it takes to win, and whether that's sacrifice my body or... I got a big arm. I feel like I can throw the ball far and pretty hard. I run hard, I feel like. I'm kind of hard to tackle. My family, they've always been behind me no matter what. My grandma gets involved and makes really good pasta salad, watches football on a regular basis. The Bulldog football program's alive and doing well.
Senior quarterback Clay Davis now joins me on set. Clay, thanks for coming tonight.
Appreciate it.
So, coming into this season, you were one of the few returning quarterbacks in the Ohio. We knew about your pocket passing ability, but something you work on the offseason was your running. Why did you want that run-pass option?
Yeah, it just makes our offense more dynamic, and I think it makes us better as a team. Coach White, our offensive coordinator, really challenged me this summer to be able to do that, and I think it paid dividends for our team this year. And
yeah,
helped us go far.
How much emphasis did you put on your running game this year?
It was a good bit. I mean, obviously, threw the ball a lot in the summer. I was always working on that, but it was definitely something I focused on a lot.
Mm-hmm. So you had 3 goals coming into the season as a team. Make the playoffs, win the conference, and get that Doc Kroner trophy back with a win over NY. You accomplished them all. What a senior season for you. How does that feel?
It feels great. It was especially fun to do it with my brothers, all our senior class. We have 19 of us, and that was a big deal for us. We've been playing together a long time, and I was glad to accomplish that with them.
Mm-hmm. So kind of going back to your teammates and your community, what does this nomination, and maybe if you get the win, what does that mean for you and your community, your teammates?
It's definitely a team award. I definitely wouldn't be here without everybody that's involved, whether it's the defense getting us the ball back, my receivers running good routes, everything. And then our fans on Friday night, definitely, they bring it. And that's what you need to be good. I mean, you need support behind you, and you need that. And I think that our community is one of the best around.
Yeah, in the Plains, you've got a great atmosphere at our Basil Rudder Field. Talk about kind of what the fans give to you on the field. What fuel do they give you?
They bring the juice. There's no other way to put it, in my opinion. They're loud. We got a pretty big place out there, and they pack it no matter who we're playing.
Mm-hmm. So one last question for you. Joe Burrow was kind of your predecessor here at Athens. Now he's tearing things up in the SAC. Do you look up to him at all?
Oh, for sure. Go Tigers, all the way.
All right, man. Well, we really appreciate you having
Thanks for having me
tonight. That about wraps up our coverage of the TVC-Ohio. Now here's Blake with a look at the other side of the conference.
Thank you, guys. Yes, the Hocking's best game was not even between 2 Hocking teams, but it is a big-time rivalry. Waterford and Fort Fry have been Southeast Ohio juggernauts recently, and each looked the part in this Week 3 matchup.
Waterford and Fort Fry have an intense rivalry, and it makes sense because the 2 schools are only separated by just over 1 mile. Fort Fry has dominated the series recently, winning the past 10 matchups, but Waterford had other plans. Braden Belleville would give the Wildcats an early lead with this touchdown scamper. The senior running back would become the school's all-time leading rusher later in the season, but he was focused on getting a win over his rival in Week 3. Things got even better for Waterford when they recovered a cadet's fumble to give them the ball back. Peyton Stevens finished the TVC-Hocking Game of the Year with 191 passing yards, but he threw a costly interception. Stevens' go-to guy all night was Zane Heiss, but he actually found Rice Thatcher in the end zone when Heiss took a rare snap at quarterback to give Waterford a 14-0 lead. The dream wouldn't come through for the Wildcats as Fort Fry would fight back to win 22-20. The Cadets stopped the Wildcats on a 2-point conversion play with less than a minute to go and rode this momentum to an unbeaten regular season.
That was Michael Roth with the recap. Thank you, Michael. The magnitude of that game, pretty big as well. We were getting tweets all week long from Waterford and Fort Fry fans. I know that game is circled on each of those teams' schedules. It's also circled on ours as well. Now, the normal Hocking frontrunners stole the show this season, and the others...
Belleville set a new school career rushing yards record, while Trimble set a new school record with 9 shutouts on the year. The Hocking also saw a new champion for the first time since 2015 in the Trimble Tomcats. The Hocking will have to say farewell to an impressive senior class, such as Waterford's Peyton Stevens and Braden Belleville, who led Waterford to a second-round playoff appearance. Logan Drummer had an impressive farewell tour as he led Southern to a 6-4 record. The biggest surprise of the year came when Gavin Freeland and Jesse Collins led Belpre to a turnaround 6-4 finish on the year. Collins rushed for more than 1,600 yards and 20 touchdowns. Eastern closed its season winning 5 of their last 6 games and teams such as Wahama, South Gallia, Miller, and Federal Hocking will look to their youth to develop entering the 2019 season.
And TVC-Hocking reporter Sam Wiesness was along for that ride all season long.
Blake, it has been so fun watching all of these Hocking teams battle it out on the gridiron this season, but next year it'll be exciting to see all of the changes coming for so many of these conference teams.
What kind of changes are we talking about here, Sam?
Well, so many of the teams in the top of the Hocking are losing big names. Southern's offense is taking a huge hit. Quarterback Logan Drummer, who had over 1,500 passing yards this season, is graduating along with two of his weapons, Brody Dutton and Austin Baker. Third place Belpre is losing the conference's regular season rushing leader, Jesse Collins, who ran for almost 1,700 yards. And Waterford is going to miss their record-breaking offensive duo of Braden Belleville and Peyton Stevens. The Wildcats were the only team in the conference that was able to put up points against the Tomcats.
Yeah, the Tomcats, their team you haven't touched on yet. What about their big changes? They have any coming?
Honestly, they'll look pretty much the same. Other than Max Hooper graduating, most of their stars are sticking around for at least another year. On offense, they'll have Connor Wright and Cam Kittle, plus sophomore playmaker Todd Bouts. They're also keeping Sawyer Coons and Ian Joyce, the defensive leaders on a unit that's held 9 teams scoreless this season.
So from what you're saying, there's a lot of question marks for really everyone except for Trimble.
Yeah, and because of that, I have a feeling the conference will look very similar to next season. Now here's a look at this year's results. Next year, Trimble has the talent and is the expected favorite, unless the rest of the field can match them on both sides of the ball. But it's hard to say how 2nd through 9th place will pan out since so many big names from the other competitive teams will be gone. The real story will be how those 2nd through 9 spots are filled. Those teams have a lot of ground to cover from this year to next.
It'll be really interesting to see them. That's why they play the games year in and year out. Sam, thank you very much. Almost all high schools have traditions, but not everyone is as noticeable as the Trimble Tomcats tradition. Nick Niehaus joins me to share the history of the Mohawk Mafia.
Yeah, everyone in Gloucester knows very well about the Mohawk Mafia, but I think that how it came to be and who started it is still widely unknown. That's why I looked to find the origin of this amazing tradition.
In Gloucester, the community revolves around Trimble football, so that's why these Tomcats found a way to represent the team even off the field.
These guys, when they were in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, were watching the older guys that went to the state finals, and they just got Mohawks for some reason. And I don't know how, so just because they're all in a gang, there was a bunch of them. I think they were just calling themselves the Mohawk Mafia.
The Mohawk Mafia started with that 2013 state final team, but it was one current player who was the credit.
My little brother, he'd be the middle linebacker now. Sawyer, he had to cut like 13, 14 pounds to make weight to be a 3rd grade running back. And we told him if he cut the weight that he'd get whatever haircut he wanted, and he picked the Mohawk. So when we started winning, I thought, well, we'll get Mohawks like Sawyer has. And then before you knew it, everybody had Mohawks.
And there, the whole team got them, community got them, grandmothers got them. You know, my mom, 85 years old, got a Mohawk.
Every 3rd and 4th grade kid that I know that plays football, they all have them.
I gave the Athens County Commissioners Mohawks. I had a couple teachers, women teachers, sit down and asked to get Mohawks.
And even a dog has a Mohawk, all cut by the same person.
I'm the barber. I like to cut the Mohawks. My brother was in charge of cutting the Mohawks, and he cut the whole team's Mohawks. So I kind of just took after it. Anywhere from 35 to 50, I bet.
Sort of a sign, I guess, sort of like blood brothers used to do, and except instead of that, it's the haircuts. We're all part of this together.
Whether it's 2013 or now, these Tomcats clearly find their strength from their hair.
Blake, there's a lot that we can compare from that 2013 team to now, but one thing that remains constant, that defense. 8 shutouts back then, 9 this year so far.
Yeah, record-breaking, and I love the fact that they get more power from having less hair. Nick, I love that story. Thanks a lot. The Mohawk Mafia is bigger than any one man, but one Mohawked man sits in studio tonight as well. Connor Wright is the biggest piece on perhaps the most potent rushing attack in our coverage. Wright's used to running all over the field for 3 quarters, but for so many big wins that Trimble had this year, he'll treat the interview with Noah like he does 4th quarters and take a seat.
Connor Wright should be the Gridiron Glory Player of the Year.
Takes the handoff, bounces to the outside, and bulldozes a tackler.
Connor Wright proving why he's a Player of the Year candidate.
Connor Wright absolutely battles his way through a mass.
I want to be Player of the Year because I think it'd mean a lot for our community and my team.
because they root for me every week and they want me to get it. Being from Trimble, that hard head, smash mouth football mentality, but we do everything for our community and our community does everything for us. I see myself more as a power back. I can power through the line quicker than some other backs. Train whistle that goes over the loudspeaker every time I run the ball. I see somebody in public or somebody, they'll be like, hop on the right trains. My grandpa would never stop saying, get on the right train.
The right train has hit Studio A. Connor Wright joins me on desk right now. Now, my first question, how does the Mohawk feel under a football helmet?
You know, I shave mine every week, so it sometimes, kind of suction cups to your head. Kind of gets hard to take off sometimes when you get sweat under there and everything like that.
All right, so I want to go back to the right train a little bit. Where did that come from, that train whistle that plays in your home stadium?
Jerry Lackey found it on the internet somewhere, and he plays over the loudspeaker every time I get the ball, at a home game at least. We haven't been able to in the past few weeks, but.
So any history behind that, or just something that randomly started?
Sometimes I carry a few defenders on my back. They call me the right chain because of that. There's no real history behind it other than this year.
All right, well, you're a part of that classic wishbone offense. What's it like to run out of that backfield?
Oh, it's great to be a part of that power offense, just to run through the line knowing nobody else can stop you.
So in practice, you run with the second team offense to play against the first team defense, that Trimble defense that shut out 9 teams this year. What does that do for you?
Sometimes they take it easy on me. Most of the time they take it easy on me. Coach gets the whistle before they ever touch me in the first place, but sometimes, it gets a little bit sketchy them coming at you.
So you're the only player still left in the playoffs. You ready for tomorrow night?
Oh, I'm ready for tomorrow night. I haven't been able to focus all week in school.
Well, speaking of that matchup tomorrow night, well, first of all, thanks for joining us on set tonight. Speaking of that matchup tomorrow night, we got Blake and T in the Highlight Center to run down what you can expect.
Yes, thank you guys. The Trimble Tomcats are the other team, aside from Sheridan, to make it to Week 13. And hockey reporter T. Willis joins me now to preview Trimble's regional final matchup tomorrow night.
After their 9th shutout victory of the season, the Trimble Tomcats have the task of taking down a familiar foe. Last season, Trimble knocked off the Lucas Cubs in a first-round slugfest, but tomorrow night, the top-seeded Cubs will look to handle some unfinished business. This Saturday, we'll see 2 teams that are quite similar, and last year's matchup proved just that, with the score being 20-19 in Trimble's favor. Last week, Trimble put only 7 points on the board against Harvest Prep, but its one score came from Gridiron Glory Player of the Year candidate Connor Wright. On the other side, the Lucas Cubs are coming off a 33-14 win against the Hocking powerhouse Waterford Wildcats. The Cubs were led by senior Jeb Grover's 184 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. Lucas gave up 134 passing yards to Waterford, but the Cubs were still able to hold them off and advance to Week 13.
So this is going to be a game with 2 teams with a storied history going at it in a regional final. Which team do you think has the advantage tomorrow night?
Though Lucas may be the higher seed, I believe Trimble has the advantage, and I'm not just saying that because they're in the studio. I'm speaking facts. Both have an exceptional offense and running scheme, and what's good about Trimble is they're able to set themselves apart on defense. The Tomcats have yet to allow a point in the playoffs, and no other team has scored against them since, get this, Blake, late September. Wow. Experience is another factor, and the Cubs have never been to the Final Four, and they haven't reached the regional final since 2015. Trimble made it to the state championship in 2013, and they went to the state Final Four the following year.
And those are seasons that the Trimble faithful will never forget. That Tomcat pride lives on. T, thank you a lot for the good work. Now, we've already recapped the 2018 MVL season and the best MVL game, but we didn't yet cover the best 2018 MVL player. Sheridan's Ethan Heller is a southpaw gunslinger with great instincts. He's one of the only returning quarterbacks in the MVL entering this season, and Heller had no trouble proving that he's dynamic, a dual threat, and a darn good candidate for Player of the Year.
Heller looks deep and floats an absolute dime to Jacob Rhodes. Great 30-yard touchdown reception.
Coach Culver said it himself. He's one of the best players in the Southeast Ohio.
And then number 6 in red and gray just took over this football game.
Knowing I was up in the top 10 last year, I just want to make sure I improve. Just being an overall playmaker, being able to get outside the pocket and still have my eyes downfield, and I want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that people look up to. I mean, we're going to work extremely hard in the off season, harder than we've ever worked, and we did. And all the times we did extra conditioning after practice, stayed and ran routes. And we've worked so hard, and the community knows that. All the blood, sweat, and tears we put into Sheridan football, and it's starting to show.
Heller is the only one of our candidates to play in a game tonight, and because of that, following his regional championship effort, the Southpaws joined at Sheridan High School by MVL reporter Nick Ursini.
Yep, Blake. Here at Sheridan High School with quarterback Ethan Heller. Ethan, I know this is a tough loss after, your season just ended, but the best that you can, just recap this season for me.
I mean, it was a great season overall. I mean, we accomplished a lot of things, a lot of goals we set. I mean, I had a great group of teammates, great group of coaches. I mean, the best I could ask for. And just, the times in and outside of football was amazing, and I'll cherish every moment.
Mm-hmm. So what's the one thing that you are going to cherish most? You're going to college. To play basketball. What's the one thing that you specifically will remember about the 2018 Sheridan Generals?
Just the brotherhood we had all together. I mean, we were just great friends in and out of football, and just amazing friends I was able to have great moments with as well. I remember the most.
Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to put you to the test, but the last time a Sheridan General won Gridiron Glory Player of the Year was in 2005. It was Kevin Culver. So it's been a long time. For you personally, you mentioned how important your coach is. He's here right now. You got some of your teammates behind you. What would this mean to you? Your cousin, Dylan Stewart, was a 2016 Gridiron Glory Player of the Year finalist. What advice has he gave you, and then, if any, and then what, to you, would it mean to win Gridiron Glory Player of the Year and bring it back to Sheridan?
I mean, it means a lot. I mean, I've worked hard in the offseason with Coach Foltz and Coach Culver to be a better passer and overall quarterback. And I wouldn't be able to do this without my teammates and my coaches pushing me every day, and us pushing each other every day. And it would mean a lot because I think we had a great year, and that would show.
So what's the one thing you're going to miss most about football? It's the last thing I'll ask you right now.
It'd be playing with my brothers. I mean, going out every Friday night and just trying to put on a show, and just the off-season grind that we had. And we started back in February, and we didn't stop until, obviously now since we got beat. But just, the brotherhood, it was tremendous, and it couldn't be any better.
Mm-hmm. All right, Blake, I'm going to toss it back over to you. In the studio, we are very close to finding out who is going to take home the 2018 Gridiron Glory Player of the Year trophy. Stay tuned.
That's right. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Ethan. You guys were a lot of fun to watch this season. Tough loss tonight, but certainly nothing to hang your hat on. Now, all episode long, you've been seeing the best players from this season. But it took more than just those guys to produce the best plays of the season. Here are the top 10 plays from 2018. Number 10 play, taking you out to a Week 4 matchup between Southern and Miller. And this poor Miller defender wants to have a conversation with Trey McNichol. Trey just says, talk to the hand. He's up the left sideline. Massive stiff arm there. Massive win for Southern in Week 4. Now here's a familiar name. Number 9 play belongs to Gio Thomas, the long ball, and Omar Porter with the long arms and the definition of mossing the defender. That was the 7th play of the game, and it's already a touchdown. Now, quarterback on quarterback crime. Peyton Stevens with a huge hit on the side of the East quarterback. Watch it one more time. Owen Huck, eventually picks that one up in the end zone, and Waterford gets the win. Now out to John Glenn in Tri-Valley. Gavin Thompson trying to reel this one in. Almost has it, but finds the shoulder blade of Hudson Brown, and he hauls it in instead. That one is going the other way, but the Little Muskies, have the last laugh. Number 6, this one comes from Week 11, a matchup between Athens and Hartley, and Joey Moore, doing his best Antoine Randall L impression, a double reverse pass, looks off the safety, sets his feet, and drops a dime. Remind you, this kid is a receiver. 35 yards down the field to Nate Trainer. Great play as our number 6. And number 5, the opening kickoff between John Glenn and New Lexington. Joseph Clifford, I guarantee you heard this name before. Goes right, goes left, and I didn't even see anybody touch him at all. He's fast, he's not that fast. We just want to show you this gnarly stiff arm. Crosses that chalk, he's into the orange turf, silences that rival crowd right away after a 70-yard opening game kickoff return. Now on to the 4th play. Both of our Washington Courthouse Player of the Year candidates getting involved in this one. Gio Thomas drops back against Circleville, feels a little bit of pressure, tries to escape, and with a hand on his collarbone, slips the sack and dumps this one off to Stewart, who bobbles it, but not too much trouble from there. Cuts all the way across, and again, untouched. One of Stewart's 5 touchdowns on the night, and look at that pass from Thomas. Just gets it out in time and lets Dylan Stewart do the rest. So number 3, this one belongs to Brody Hodge of the Morgan Raiders. Bails his quarterback out a little bit in the flat with 4 fingers on this catch. We'll rewind it one more time just because of impressive. Yeah, back across his body, even manages to make one guy miss out in the flat. That's an 11-yard gain for the big fella. Now number 2, Caleb Easley of Alexander with the long ball and the long leaping pick for RJ Kemp. He's a quarterback as well. Rewind this one. You could consider a double coverage on Alexander's part, but a picture-perfect pick from RJ Kemp. And that leads us to number 1. Hook and ladder. The Sheridan offense is on fire. Ethan Heller to Jacob Rhodes, the Logan Ramp. No problem. A 3rd and 22, you could have given it to any one of these guys, but you put all 3 of them, and you're going to see this result. That's another rivalry game. They go on to win this one in huge fashion. So there's the top 10, but we're still wasting all this time. We got to get to who our Player of the Year winner is. So Noah's going to welcoming Noah back onto the set, and he's holding a young man's fate in his hands.
Yeah, Blake, we've hyped this one up long enough. We've got a lot of votes from the community, a lot of reporter debate about this one, but this is it.
I'll trade you.
You ready, Blake?
Yes, I want the folks to know I don't know the winner either, so I'm real excited about this, guys. The winner of the 2018 Gridiron Glory Player of the Year, Ethan Heller.
Hard work starting to pay off.
So, obviously, Ethan's not in the studio, but he's going to join us from Sheridan, the same place you saw him with Nick Orsini. Ethan, congratulations, man. Really, really happy for you.
Back at Sheridan High School. Ethan, it is my honor, with everybody from Gridiron Glory, it is my honor to present you the 2018 Gridiron Glory Player of the Year trophy. Congratulations.
All right, Ethan. We talked about you're going to play basketball at Concord, but they haven't seen you with the Gridiron Glory Player of the Year trophy in your hand. You got any thoughts about playing football there as well?
I'm not sure. I mean, it would be fun. I mean, I love the game of football. I don't know, though. It will be interesting to see what happens.
Definitely be a big ask of you, a lot of time commitment on you and physicality, but you got it in you. Let's talk about the present. How does this feel right now?
It feels great. I mean, I'm very blessed to receive this. I just want to thank everyone who voted for me, and I want to thank my teammates and my coaches for everything they've done to help me.
Absolutely. You talked about a lot of the hard work you put in prior to the season, even during the season. Because of that, was there any expectation on your part to win this award?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I thought coming in, if I worked really hard, I could be the best quarterback around here. But I knew it would have to take a lot of hard work, and I would have to execute every Friday night.
Yeah, definitely did. You certainly did through 13 weeks. One thing we touched on, too, I know you're cousins with Dylan Dupler, who was in that spot a couple years ago. The family atmosphere at Sheridan is really big. How did that help fuel your success this season?
I mean, definitely. I mean, Sheridan community is very close. I mean, we have a great brotherhood here, and it especially showed this year. But Dylan, yeah, I learned a lot from him. I mean, being a left-handed quarterback, he was a great passer, and I just took little bits and pieces of his game to put in mine.
Saw a lot of similarities between you two. Ethan, congratulations, man. Enjoy that one tonight.
Thank you. Thanks, Blake.
So that's it, huh? That's all we got. We handed out the award. We want to thank you all for tuning into a phenomenal milestone season, Gridiron Glory Season 20. I can't believe it's come to an end.
Yeah, me neither, Blake. It's been a whirlwind 14 weeks, but this is it. This is it.
This is it. Thank you very much to the folks at home, and I want you to remember something because it's something I'll never forget. Nothing is better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.
There was a time I was a king, living the all-American dream, quarterback of the football team. And we had worked so hard in the August heat, 2 times a day, 6 days a week. Senior year, 17. The butterflies I felt there before that first game left when the whistle blew, as fast as they had came. When I said, you go short and you go long, and said we never make it, but they were wrong. And just let the scoreboard tell the story. 'Cause it's first down in our lives to go. We won't forget these times, you know. Friday nights and Gridiron Glory. The air was crisp and the night was black. Bootleg right was the best play we had, especially when the safety turned his back. I couldn't pick a face out of the crowd, but when the touchdowns came, they got so loud. Ain't that what life is all about? Heading to the party in my used 10-man-down car. The big game is next week, but tonight we are the stars. When I said, you go short and you go long, they said we never make it, but they were wrong. And just let the scoreboard tell the story. 'Cause it's first down in our lives to go. You won't forget these times, you know. Friday nights and Gridiron Glory. Strap the shoulder pads on, lace up my cleats for the last game that I played. I never thought I'd see this day. Both 9-0, going toe-to-toe, 10,000 in the stands. But our destiny was in our hands. 4th and goal, 2 seconds left. Shotgun and 4 wide. Looking left, but scramble right. The ball went down before it hit the ground. I somehow tossed it up.